From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 83. Today's show is brought to you by Memberful, Igloo, and Squarespace. My name is Mike Hurley. I am joined by Mr. Stephen Hackett of 512 Pixels. Hello, Stephen Hackett.
Hello, Michael Hurley.
And also by Mr. Federico Vitici of Mac Stories. Hi, Federico.
Well, hey, thank you for telling the name of my website.
That's
Mike.
all right. I'm Mike Hurley of michaelsright.com.
Is that your brand?
It's my personal brand. We know that by now. I reckon
Nice.
we're going to be a bit punchy today. We haven't recorded in the evening in a very long time, and we're recording in the evening tonight.
Yes.
So you've got that to contend with.
Yeah.
I miss the evening recordings.
I
That's
do
just me.
not miss them.
Me neither, but it's a bit more romantic, I guess.
It is.
It is.
It is. I remember back in the days of the prompt, where I would be awake until 2 a.m. editing, then waking up at 7 to go to work the next day.
Is that
Because-
a podcast?
Yeah, I had to not anymore, because I had to wait for Federico's file
Oh yeah.
of your slow
Remember?
internet.
Oh.
And we used to have so many problems just in general then. It was and the freaking sound effects, which always added more time than I wanted. It
Right.
was those were the days. We run a much tighter ship now, which is nice.
Yeah. There was no 4G, you know.
Nope.
4G. I used to say sentences with gaps in them for you to drop the sound effect in.
That's true.
Over
But,
time, we perfected the gap to the right time with the sound effect. But
Yeah, I'm really good at it. So now it's time for follow-up.
well, I want to do a piece of follow out first.
Okay.
Gosh.
In case people haven't heard this, you should hear this. Episode number 6
yeah.
of Remaster went out
Yes.
last week, and we were very lucky to get an exclusive interview with Shuhei Yoshida, who is the president of Worldwide Studios at PlayStation. This guy is like instrumental in the PlayStation, like the PS4 and the PSVR, their new VR headset. And Shahid went out to San Francisco, and on his trip, he got a 15-minute interview with Yoshida-san, which is part of the episode, including me and Federico talking about the PlayStation VR. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. I think you should go and listen to it. It's at relay.fm/remaster/6. If you enjoy the show, share it with your friends, subscribe. It's fun. We enjoy it, and we put a lot of love and care into it. So I think that listeners of this show would like that very much.
It's a really cool interview.
Yeah, it was. We were very lucky. And then in a very important piece of follow-up that I received just before the show, if you remember back way into the history of when Workflow came out, I created or adapted a workflow to send thousands of emoji at a time. Do you remember this?
Yes.
I will find that workflow and put that in the show notes. But a guy called Matthew sent me a tweet to tell me, because I brought it up on Analog last week. He used that technique to send 10,000 pig emojis to a friend, and messages crashed every time that he tried to open it. I had this, and I just rebooted my phone, and it was fine. That wouldn't work for him. He had to restore his phone.
Wow.
So I will put this workflow in the show notes, but I would suggest that you use it at your own peril. If you do too many of them, things can go crazy.
Yeah, please don't try this at home.
Well, you know,
Be careful.
we're emoji professionals, so we're fine. We can try it at home, but everybody else should be careful.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about the Mac topic from last week, the idea of some things that Apple could do to make the Mac potentially more attractive to third-party developers. And in that conversation, we spoke about UIKit, and I had totally forgotten about and neglected to bring up UXKit. So we have a couple of links in the show notes. One, Macworld, a piece about why smaller iOS developers may be smart to look at the Mac, and then one to 6 Colors, and one to anyessential.com about this topic and about UXKit specifically, which is part of Photos.app, which shipped, I guess, like a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And if you look at Photos.app, it looks and kind of feels like an iOS app in a lot of ways. And the reason for that is Apple re-implemented a portion of UIKit to run on the Mac, and it's called UXKit. And as far as I know, as far as I could find, Photos is really the only place that we've seen this, and it has not been made public to developers to use at this point. Hasn't been really expanded upon by Apple. But it does show that this sort of work at Apple at least has been underway to a degree to get photos done. And I think it's an interesting way of looking at it, that porting UIKit directly doesn't really work, right? Because it's touch driven and there's a lot of elements there that just don't make sense if you're dealing with a cursor. Because even if you're on something like the Magic Trackpad, you're still not touching things directly, right? It's abstracted away through the cursor. And but Photos, that app feels like a Mac app. It feels like an iOS app too. It's very sort of this strange hybrid. And so you should go check out those links. It's an interesting piece of technology, and one that maybe Apple will expand upon at some point in the future.
So I don't fully understand a lot of this stuff, but so is this basically like somewhere in the middle between Mac development and iOS development then? Is that what this is kind of about?
Well, I think some of it's a little unknown because UXKit is not really available for developers to use, right? You can only kind of see how it's used in photos.
Uh-huh.
And so I think there's a lot of question as to like how much time and effort this could shave off for, porting an iOS app, but it's definitely further along than going from UIKit to AppKit that's on the Mac now.
So basically an iOS developer could look at this and maybe have a better understanding of how to use it because of the tools and what they put into play on iOS.
Yeah, potentially. So I think it's at this point it's all about the potential of it.
All right, cool. I wanted a piece of follow up. We were talking about Ulysses quite a bit last week, and Federico kept sharing his beautiful setup, and this prompted a tweet from CGP Grey, which prompted a tweet from the Ulysses app people to say that Dropbox support is coming to a soon update. So, I mean, I don't know anything about this, but it does more than that. But it looks like maybe that Dropbox Sync will be coming back to Ulysses or coming to Ulysses.
Yeah, I don't know at this point because don't have a beta or anything, so I'm based on this tweet. But it sounds like there's going to be direct support for Dropbox, which is good news, especially because you can then go to Dropbox.com, see the text files, see versions, which iCloud doesn't show you.
And also you have the peace of mind, for big things like this. If I was you, I would want to go with a thing that I've used and known and trusted for many, many years. And whilst iCloud seems better, I mean, I know as a Notes user, iCloud is fantastic. Like the way that my favorite thing about Notes Sync is that I may have added something from an extension. I open up that note, start typing, and then the link that I've added pops in above the text.
Yeah.
I think that is like, you nailed it, right?
Yep.
It needed to sync, but you know where it's supposed to go. It's like that for me, like it just feels like you nailed it, right? So this stuff may be better. I don't know the ins and outs of how you would build an app like Ulysses on this stuff. But nevertheless, for a multiple 10,000 word article, Dropbox has never failed you.
No, never. And it gives you...
So you'd want to use that.
Yeah, especially because, Ulysses uses that type of iCloud sync that you cannot manage in a web browser. It's not like when you go to iCloud.com and you see a bunch of text files from, or files in general from iCloud Drive.
If Byword does it like that.
Yeah, Ulysses doesn't do that type of iCloud implementation. So the iCloud that you see in Ulysses only propagates across the apps. You cannot go on a web browser and see all your documents. You can only go to your iPhone or the iPad or the Mac. So it's only inside the app. And using Dropbox or, similar services gives you the sense of safety that you can go anytime, anywhere on a web browser. You can view the file, you can restore, you can view versions, which is what you want. When you're working on a big project that's taking you months to put together, that's what you want to be able to do. So we'll see. I'm really happy that they're doing it. I've been using Ulysses for the past week again. I know that people are waiting for some sort of follow-up. I'm liking it a lot. iCloud Sync has been terrific so far. I don't know if I told you, Mike, but I'm using the dark theme a lot more. To my surprise, because I've never been a huge dark theme user. I know that you love dark themes.
I'm all about dark themes.
Yeah, I haven't been a dark theme person myself in any app really so far, but I'm using it in Ulysses, and I do love the contrast between the black background, the yellow font, red section names. It's really nice.
Can you share the themes?
I think so. I
'Cause
think so.
I haven't yet, but I am like every day I go to the App Store and look at the Ulysses app and then close it again. It's. I mean, I just look so pretty.
Yeah, I can share my theme. I think I'll take a look at how it's done. I'm liking the toolbar a lot. You know, where it's got all the menus with the shortcuts to insert links and footnotes to make text italic or bold. I'm getting used to the layout because I mean, you know, I'm new to the app. It's only 2 weeks after years and years of other text editors, so I'm still getting used to it. I do like a lot the organization that I set up. So I have 2 different groups. One is called Mac Stories, the other is called Club. So yeah, I can organize the different content that I write for the website and for the newsletters. And then I'm also starting to use the keywords. So I have a finalized keyword that I apply to sheets or, you know, documents when they are complete for the newsletter. So when I open the club group in Ulysses, I can, you know, just take a look and see what's been finalized, what's ready to go. So that's nice. You know, it's very different. I continue to believe that it's very different from what I used to writing before. And I'm getting used to the whole idea of, you know, sheets can be grouped together, and you can have attachments inside sheets, which I used last week to prepare some iOS 9.3 coverage. You know, I was saving screenshots and placing the screenshots right inside my document, not into my Photos app, where for some reason I never find them again. So yeah, I'm getting used to it. I think I'm positive that I'm gonna keep using it. I will keep you updated over the next few weeks.
I want to know more.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, mainly for that revision history like you guys were talking about. You know, I'm using OneWriter, which syncs Dropbox files offline, which is really nice. And then I'm just using NVAlt on the Mac, but it's nice to have the flexibility, right? That because they're just files, I can open something up and buy Word or BB Edit or pull it down from Dropbox and kind of get at it from anywhere. And iCloud just has those walls around it that I don't really want to deal with. So I'm with you. I'm excited about it. And I will definitely be spending some serious time with it once Dropbox support is out.
Yeah, I've been back on editorial recently for some of the stuff that I've been doing. And it's nice on the iPad Pro. The beta is very nice. All right, talking about all this text stuff, I just wanted to take a quick moment, because we're going to talk about the Apple event now, to talk about like our coverage and stuff, because we all kind of did our own little things yesterday. I wanted to just point out the abundance of Mac Stories links that are going to be in the show notes, because Federico and his team posted 675 articles yesterday.
No.
I counted 675. It was really impressive. You should be very proud.
Thank you. It was only, I think, 14 or 15 maybe, but it's more than usual.
Yeah,
yes.
It was clearly you have either grown 6 more sets of arms, or you have built an incredible team around you.
Yeah, the guys have been really, really great. I'm really happy with we planned it in advance. We had a full outline of how we wanted to cover the announcements, and we had a sort of plan based on 9to5 Mac basically gave us.
That is helpful for you, actually, isn't it? Because you
Yeah.
can just assign the products because you know what they are.
We had two wildcards, and we said, well, based on what they are, we're just gonna see what it is, go with the flow, and we'll talk over Slack. But we had a strategy based on iPhone, iPad. I was getting iPad, of course. Alex was getting the iPhone, and we knew there were going to be watch announcements. So we were like 5 people talking in Slack, and it went really, really nicely. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Mike.
Stephen was doing his usual tweeting, as he is known to do. If you don't follow the 512 Pixels account, it's 512px on Twitter, you should follow it just for Apple events. Stephen goes a little bit crazy.
It's very serious news coverage. So, what can I say?
You also did a little article that we'll talk about in a bit, which is really cool. And me and Jason recorded a weird and special episode of Upgrade, where Jason called in from his car on his way back from Cupertino to the Six Colors World headquarters, and we recorded the show that way. And I actually am really happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of work from both me and Jason to get it just right. But I actually listened back to a bunch of it today, and I'm pretty happy with it. It was fun. It was something different to what we usually do. So if you haven't heard that, again, more links in the show notes. Upgrade episode 81. So that's that. Let's actually talk about what happened. So what we didn't know at the time when Tim made his big statement about the FBI was the way the rest of the day would play out. And Federico, what happened yesterday evening in regards to the FBI investigation?
I was basically postponed because the Department of Justice argued that a third party approached them, saying that there could be a method of unlocking the iPhone without having Apple's assistance. And the judge, whose name I don't remember, I think it's Judge. I don't remember.
Judge Sherry Pim.
Pim, yes. Okay, I was about to say Ping, but that's another product. Close enough.
The judge isn't a product.
No. So they granted the FBI and the Justice Department a new hearing on April 5 to report back on these, tests that they're going to do on this iPhone based on the method from a third party. We don't know who the third party is. Might as well be John McAfee. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably the NSA, right? Like,
Me too.
who else could it be?
Well, guys, I've got a special guest with me here today. It's the FBI. It's me. It was me all along. I worked it out. Basically, a lot of people are saying that they think the FBI is chickening out of this. I don't know. I don't know how to take that. I mean, maybe. What do you guys think? Do you think there's any merit in that theory?
I mean, maybe a little, but I don't think they would say in what I imagine is sworn testimony that they have someone else who thinks they can unlock it. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things we may never know. And, a lot of people are like, hey, it's over. It's like, well, no, it's not over. It's kind of on hold. And so they could go off and we'll just say that, whoever it is could go unlock it. And that's that. Or that could prove to be incorrect, and they could come back and say, hey, you know what, we tried this, and you know what, now you really should do it because we have gone through all these other steps to do it, and you truly are our last ditch effort. So I don't see this as a victory yet, but
no. It's maybe a ray of hope for people that want it to go Apple's way, but it's not over.
It's not over. So I think those headlines are a little premature, but we'll see. It could be that this just quietly goes away. And if that's the case, then we can either assume that whoever it is did get into the phone and that's got its own ramifications, or that it really was they realized that they were losing the public battle, and so they sort of, backed off from it. But again, we'll probably, I think there's a big chance that we'll never actually know.
Apple opened the event with one of their cute little videos that they've done in the past. Since, was it like WWDC a year or two ago? Was it the iOS 7? Was like the first real time this had happened, right?
Yeah, it had like the little the design like marbles one. Or something, balls rolling around and stuff. And they did one I think last year about like how app developers like make the world really special. It was like painting around a room, right? And like the words kind of appeared and disappeared based on the angle. So they've been doing some fun stuff recently.
And this one was kind of in anticipation of celebrating Apple's 40th year, right? Which is, on April 1st?
Yes.
So there's that. And as part of this, they basically showed up a bunch of keywords and phrases and product names and in-jokes. And there was only one man who could decipher this code. And he's with us today.
Yes, I was listening to Upgrade washing dishes after dinner, and Jason says, hey, my first thought was that Steven should do, pull apart the video frame by frame and like list out, annotate everything that's in it. And basically I was like, that's a great idea. I should go do that. And so I went and did it. And several hours later, it took a long time. I did learn that if you're in QuickTime, you can use the arrow keys to advance one frame at a time, which is very helpful when you're doing something like this. But it's a fun list, right? Like it's everything from 1984 and the Macintosh. There's a lot of stuff about the iMac G3, and then a lot of more modern stuff. But I don't know how many individual slides there are because I didn't number this list, but it's a bunch of stuff.
Anything that jumps out for you specifically?
I mean, so two things. A, the Newton slide, like it's really hilarious, especially if you realize that.
What is the joke?
So the word Newton stays up there, and then after a moment, they scribble through it with like a line. And if you are using a Newton, that's how you delete a word, is to scribble through it. So it's kind of a little funny little jab at the Newton. The guys who they run like the Newton Talk Twitter account were really incensed over this, like saying they were going to scratch through Apple executives, which seems a little overreaction.
Well, look, how often do the Newton people get in the news?
Yeah,
you got to give them it, right?
And you got to know it's going to be negative, right? Like, short of me writing something, I don't know who's writing anything positive about the Newton these days.
There's Newton people still?
Yes.
What do they do?
Probably not a lot if they're still using the Newton.
No, I mean, serious question. Do they still use the Newton for like everyday computing?
I know people who use them as sort of like I mean, there are a couple of people who still use them like daily, I think. I used it daily in college like 10 years ago. But I think that there's still some people who it's a really passionate hobby. Like I think the word I use in the list is like enthusiasts.
Can it go on the internet, for example?
It can. You can put a wireless card in it and you can get on the internet.
Okay.
Very slowly and very simply. But yeah, it'll go. The other thing that jumped out at me was all the iMac G3 stuff. They talk about the computer. They have tangerine, lime, strawberry, blueberry, and grape, which were the 5 colors, or the 5 flavors as they called them. And those were some of the only colored slides in the video, so they really jumped out when you were watching it. And it's something that's been on my mind because I'm in a phase of iMac G3 acquisition, and so I've been spending some time looking at them, and so that jumped out at me.
What does that mean exactly?
So I am trying to source one of each color for a project, and so I have 3 now, and I've got a lead on almost every other color. Some of those I'm going to have to just wait till they show up on eBay, but I got someone I think locally who has some iMacs that they're going to let me have. So
when you say project, do you mean hoarding? Like what is project?
When you say you have a lead, is it like an investigation that is going on? Tracking down computers?
Someone did, I got today, someone did email me after I tweeted about it, and they sent me an Indigo that they had, which is pretty cool.
These aren't small. These are really big things, and you want like 6 of them.
No, I could tell you 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's like 12, I think 12 different colors.
Are you going trying to get all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You are one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing.
Well, so those are 12 computers.
I don't know how you're married. I just don't know how it continues. I have met Mary. She's very lovely, and I don't understand it.
I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she's not real thrilled.
Okay.
So those are 12 different models of the same computer. Is that right?
Yes.
12. So
yes.
you should put them on a long table, and you sit in the middle. And what's the painting from Leonardo da Vinci?
The Last Supper.
The Last Supper, and you do a recreation of that with you in the middle. 12 old computers.
I mean, I don't know what your project is, but it ain't going to be better than that.
The Last Supper of iMacs is pretty good. So I'm going to scrap what I had in mind.
Oh, was there an
I do
Apple
that.
event this week?
I don't know. Yeah, can we get off of me and do something else?
Yeah.
So, 1 billion active Apple devices. This came up again, right? They went. I was trying to find it. They mentioned this number before. Was it during a conference call or something? A
it
quarterly.
was the last analyst call.
Okay. So 1 billion active Apple devices. I will admit that 337 of them are at my house, but I think the way they count this are things that check in with like an Apple internet service. I think that's kind of believed how this number is come to. And that number is really crazy to me, that it's 1 billion seems impossible to understand.
It's a lot. Like, I don't even...
Yes.
It's a lot. Like, it's a lot. And I think they used that... Tim put that up before he started talking about the privacy thing. Like, we have to protect all of these people, I think was his kind of thing there, right?
And I think it was to sort of show that Apple is not like this like rinky-dink company that can be pushed around. Like they are saying I believe what you said, that it's about like we have all these people that we feel we're responsible to, but also like we're kind of a big deal, and they you could see a world where if this continues that Apple's going to be like, we have 1 billion active Apple devices and we're an American company. Like that's sort of the undertone I get out of this is like we're a big deal and we're here. And it's obviously incredibly impressive and, like you said, difficult to sort of wrap your head around. But I think that number works in their favor in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, no doubt. Then they kind of went into the environmental stuff. There's some interesting things there. A lot of the stuff that Apple's doing for the environment and their carbon offsetting and things like that. But the real kind of cool news is the Liam robot, right? Like, that's what everyone's latching onto. I mean, look, it is amazing what they're doing. Like, 99% recycled paper, 93% all renewable energy. Some countries are 100%. They're going for 100% worldwide. But they created a robot that has an eye that can tear apart and just cast aside the insides of iPhones, right?
Have you read the Mashable story?
I haven't yet. I saw that just before we started recording.
It's a giant robot that occupies an entire warehouse. And in the video, you only see one arm or maybe two arms of the robot. It's got 29 of those arms moving around.
That's horrific.
It's basically a huge machine, and it takes, I think, 11 seconds. If I got this correctly, it takes, 11 seconds to complete an iPhone disassembly process, with dozens running through the system at all times. And it can turn around 350 units each hour for 1.2 million iPhones each year. So this is just one single Liam robot machine. It can do over 1 million iPhones each year. So it's a huge number, you know?
It's a little terrifying.
And it's terrifying. It's got 29 arms, and it's basically like a giant robot inside of a warehouse, eating iPhones and spitting out parts in different buckets. And I mean, it's a great initiative, you know, especially because Apple explained to Mashable, we can cut through all the different elements real precisely. So it's not like the traditional recycling process. It may happen that, you know, that maybe the copper gets mixed up with a bunch of steel, and then, you know, the recycling process, it's not as good as it could be. We got this robot with all sorts of crazy machinery going on, and we can precisely separate each element. Which is great news, you know, especially because Apple can then resell all this material, which is not contaminated by other material, to, you know, different companies that recycle the material, and it goes back out into the world. So it's great news. It's just, you know, maybe the fact that it's a robot with 29 arms and it's got a name, it's only slightly terrifying, I think.
I wonder what Liam stands for. Like, there must be a backronym to it, right?
No, there's no name. According to Apple, Mashable was guessing they asked them, does it mean line inverse assemble machine, something like that? And Apple's like, no, it's just a name. We looked at the robot and it looked like Liam, and we named it Liam. So
Man,
what kind of robot look like that it looks like a Liam?
Well, it's 29 arms. That's the thing. Like, does somebody really hate somebody called Liam inside of Apple? Like, there's a guy nobody likes.
Or something's really wrong with that guy.
Something's really that looks just like Liam from accounting, the 29 arm guy.
Wow. HR. No, it's cool. And we glossed over it, but the environmental stuff is a big deal. And I wasn't aware that they were so far into the renewable energy stuff. But again, for a company of their size, clearly they're making a huge investment here, and with a belief that they are really like improving the world. So it's great, and it was great to see some of that. Obviously, there's like the yak joke going around, which is rather hilarious, but it was a nice way to kind of set the stage a little bit going into these products, of having, instead of a retail update, having an update sort of in these other areas.
Yeah, I think the point of bringing this up yesterday was, you say like you didn't know it. I don't think anybody knew that they were this far along. I think that was maybe why they brought it up, So it was like, we've spoken about this before, but oh, by the way, look at all this crazy stuff we're doing. So it was cool. It's cool.
It's a thing.
But do you want to talk about Research Kit and Care Kit?
Yeah. So, Research Kit was announced a while back, and Jeff Williams kind of runs Apple's health stuff, along with a lot of other duties at Apple. Spoke about Research Kit and how it's being used, and kind of building the case that it's being adopted. And as a refresher, Research Kit is an open source platform from Apple where institutions, hospitals, clinics, that sort of thing, can build apps to basically have a at-large sampling of medical data. And so before, if you were going into one of these studies, could be very small or very labor and time intensive to find people to join your study. And now it's much simpler, Apple argues, with a Research Kit. And it seems that that's the case. And they're expanding that with Care Kit, which, best to understand it, is basically it's open source like Research Kit, but it's a set of tools that can go into apps for patients to be more engaged with their own care. And so it comes with a couple of different, I think what they call modules, some for some tracking stuff. So you can track range of motion. Like you can hold the iPhone, the example Jeff Williams gave, hold the iPhone in your hand and lift your shoulder, and the accelerometer in the phone will measure your range of motion. You can put pain scores in, but then there's also a whole follow-up deal. So if you go and have a procedure done, and I've had this when I had my elbow worked on, they basically just give you a couple sheets of paper and yeah, do this, don't do that. This is the medicine you need to take. Well, you can build that into an app now where it can be interactive. So a patient can go in and say, yes, if I'm supposed to change my dressing every 3 days, I can go in and check off that I've done that, or I can be reminded of it, and really making that sort of aftercare scenario much more in the 21st century. And I think it's great. And I tweeted this yesterday, and I know that it kind of sounds cheesy, or it just comes across as being a fanboy, but I really believe that in this sort of stuff, A, Apple doesn't have to do this. B, I guess if there's any impact to their bottom line, it's that people are buying and using iPhones, but people are already buying and using iPhones. I'm sure this is a loss for them on their P&L, but the idea of leaving a dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs talked about, this is where they're doing it. And they had a part of the Research Kit video about studying things like epilepsy, and can there be a pattern in people's heartbeats before a seizure starts? And if you're epileptic,
mm-hmm.
and you go into this rhythm, maybe you could get a warning before you have a seizure. So if you're driving, you can pull over, or if you're in a grocery store, you can go find help. And as someone who deals with epilepsy in their immediate family, that's huge, because that stuff can just come on with no warning. And it can be really dangerous. And I think it gets me. Obviously it's personal for me, but I think it really is an area where like them or don't like them, like their products, don't like their products. I don't think anyone can argue that this is a great thing that Apple's doing.
I was looking through Twitter yesterday during the event, and I saw a lot of white tech bloggers making fun of ResearchKit and CareKit, saying, now Apple wants to have all of your health data. They want to make money. This is not so as, make as a good initiative as they make it out to be. Well, these people, they probably never had to worry about a single serious health scare in their lives. Let me tell you, when you do chemo, then you gotta do physical therapy and you gotta go through a bunch of paper sheets every time. And there's no correct way to look at all this data. There's no useful way to assess all of these, different data points. Does your leg hurt? Does the muscle hurt? Did you do your exercises? There's no good way to track all these. And any company who wants to make a tool to do this stuff easily and to keep track of it and to help people, well, you know what? I don't care if they also make money because they're helping me, I went through physical therapy and it wasn't fun. Especially when you gotta remember and you gotta print out all of these paper sheets with all the exercises that you gotta do at home, and you forget and you don't like to go through those paper sheets because they're not on your phone, and it's a very bad quality. You don't understand the drawings, and you don't have 3D animations on the drawings, and then you forget to fill out the forms. It sucks. It genuinely sucks. And so when I see these people making fun of something that can help others, well, it really gets under my skin,
I think, like, my feeling on this is, I think that it is a bit of column A, a bit of column B. Like, they're trying to help everyone, but it's also like a way to help sell devices and market the products. But that doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter if that's the thing, because if you're actually, and they said, like, some of the studies that they'd done ended up being some of the largest clinical studies in history. It's like, so it doesn't matter if the reason you're doing it is to sell more iPhones, because the result is amazing. I don't think it matters either way. Like, of course part of it is to sell iPhones. Otherwise, they would create devices for free and get them out to everyone in the world. But they're not doing that, right? And they don't need to do that. They shouldn't have to do that. They have 1 billion people using their devices, right? You only need like 0.001% of them, and it's a massive research study. But I think it's like, whatever, let them do it, because what they're doing is actually making some people's lives better. Like, I don't see why that's an issue for some people, but it is.
Yeah, that's rich coming from some people whose only concern is to look at the page views, but whatever. It just gets to me.
He's not angry.
Not at all. Let's take a break. This week's episode is brought to you by a new sponsor, and that's Memberful. Look, all right, setting up a membership program for your website, podcast, or other project can be difficult. You have to worry about security, payment processing, member management, and so much more. Or you could do what we did here at Relay and sign up for Memberful, so then you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. With Memberful, we're able to know all of our Relay FM members' data is kept safe and secure. That was top priority for us. We put a lot of things in place. I know Federico did the same when setting up membership stuff to make sure that stuff would be kept safe and secure. And Memberful, they had it locked down. It integrates with our site without any hassle on our end. It makes it not only easy to manage, but also easier for new people to sign up. They have a great little UI. It just pops in front of the webpage. It couldn't be easier. The member management features are fast and reliable. This makes it easy to share content with our members. We can send emails out to specific groups. Maybe if you just support a specific show, or we send an email out to everyone. We can help people change their plans. They can just email us, tell us they want to switch, and we can do it for them. It's super simple, and also lets people see payment details and change their own plans as well if they want to. All of this is done with Memberful's online dashboard. It takes just a few clicks and we're in and around and managing it. It's super simple. Visit memberful.com today for secure, fast, and reliable membership software for your business or project. And when you sign up, make sure that you tell them you heard about Memberful through Connected, and you'll get $50 credit towards any paid plan. Seriously, if you have any type of membership program that you need to do, or maybe you're setting like a social club or something, and everybody needs to put money into it, if you can integrate something like Memberful into your system, you're going to be happy. We did it so we could have a large-scale, long-running thing. Federico did the same, and I'm sure he would say great things about Memberful. They are fantastic. Thank you so much to Memberful for their support of this show.
I really do love Memberful. The entire Club McStories runs on Memberful. It's just, perfect for our needs. I didn't even know it was a sponsor today. So, it's genuine feedback. I really do love it.
Also, they've been really responsive for support and stuff for us as well.
Oh, yeah.
They've even implemented some features that we needed. Like,
Yeah.
when a company does that for you, it's a great company.
Yeah, and the guy actually writes to you, which is awesome. So, yes, a really happy customer.
All right, so let's talk about what wasn't announced at the Apple event, which was anything Macintosh related.
What?
Yeah.
Now, I think that there's a real simple reason for this, but go ahead, Stephen.
No, I mean, Skylake MacBook Pros clearly on deck at some point. They've got to be ready. There's been rumors of Retina external display. I would like one of each. I'm just waiting. But, clearly not the event for this. My initial thought was with the environment and the FBI stuff, they wanted those things to be more like a bigger piece of the pie. And so to give those things some time to breathe. But I think your theory is even better.
As I was watching the presentation, and Schiller kept saying over and over again that the iPad was the future of computing, and they were talking about Windows switches coming to the iPad. I think having Macs in there as well would have mixed that iPad message. I actually think that this message of future of computing and people that switch to the Apple ecosystem go to iPad first, I think this is the new iPad marketing campaign, like the long running one. Like, this is going to be how they can kind of phrase this, because if this stuff is all true, which we assume that it is, this is stuff that they should be leveraging. And they show a video later on. They show there's at least a video on the website of people using their iPads, right? They have one of those new iPad marketing videos. And in that video, there are people working on documents, working on images, in FaceTime calls. Like, these aren't people hanging on the side of mountain faces in tents anymore.
No. Thank goodness.
This is the way to market the iPad, because everyone that I know that has started to love their iPad Pros, and it's not just me and Federico. Like, you look at Serenity Caldwell. I was just listening to Mac Power Users, and obviously I noticed from talking to Jason all the time that he doesn't use a laptop anymore. Like, he uses his iMac and his iPad Pro. I know, Stephen, that you're using yours more and more. The people that are using this device to do stuff, they're doing work on them. They're not, like, trying to create a band recital choreography. Like, all of that stuff's really cool, but that's not the stuff that you show to the world, because it doesn't relate to the average person. This campaign of showing people in offices with architectural plans, on FaceTime calls, in picture-in-picture, using the pencil to draw things and make notes, like, this is how they should be marketing this product. And I think touch wood, they have finally found the thing that might try and open this up to a wider audience again.
It's very practical, showing people getting work done, keyboards, documents, chatting with other colleagues. It's very pragmatic, I would say. It's not, scuba diving with an iPad. Of course, that's really cool, but I don't explore the oceans with an iPad.
Yep.
I just gotta fill out this spreadsheet. So yeah, makes sense.
And I'm happy that they're going in this route. And yeah, I just think that they really, more than once, I think the beginning and the closing of the iPad Pro section was this future of computing thing. And I think if they would have closed that and about right now, the Mac, I don't know if it would have landed so well.
I did have a chuckle that they had in like one of the images behind Chili when was talking is someone working on a Surface, or it's the idea that PCs are changing into these sort of convertible like things, and that really is, especially the Pro. Once you get the keyboard on it, like it is more of a convertible than the straight tablet for a lot of people. And so, I don't disagree with the philosophy of this marketing push. It did feel a little thin when he first started talking of like why we're doing this new iPad Pro and it's for like Windows switchers. I'm like, well, is it like, do people want to switch to a 10-inch tablet or do they want to go to something bigger? And I mean, obviously I don't know, right? And Apple, I'm sure, has information about what people are coming from and if people are repeat customers or not and all that stuff. But clearly they are just trying something in a new direction to jumpstart those iPad numbers, and like that, I've got no problem with.
All we know is the current direction is not working, right? Like
Exactly.
That's what we know. I mean, and they've got to be the conversations that are happening inside of Apple's iPad marketing team. It's like, we thought this was really good. This looked really nice. It highlighted some stuff, but it's not landing with people because sales numbers keep going down. So I think this is the right move.
Can I just point out one, a little, maybe not so little, but something I didn't like from this section. So when Phil Schiller said that, people using a 5-year-old PC is sad, I think that's really not cool, I mean, I get why Apple, what kind of angle they were going for. We want to sell an iPad to these people because people believe that an iPad is a better computer. But just the tone, the offhand comment saying, these people, they're using old computers. Well, that's sad. On stage from an executive, really not cool.
I think that Schiller was doing a little bit of ad-libbing here, and it didn't pay off for him so well.
No.
Because the message that I think that they were trying to get across at this point was, there are people who have machines that are 5 years old. That means they're likely to be upgrading at some point. We want them on the iPad.
Yeah.
I think that was the message they were trying to get across, but he was trying to make a joke for the Apple people in the room. But all it's done is it's become one of those things that people are complaining that like Apple has a bunch of products that are that year old as well, like for sale right now. And it's like, like it's true, right? Like, how old is the Mac Mini at this point? They're still selling this stuff. I mean, and you really want to go down, we can go back to where we were a couple of weeks ago. You're still selling hard drives, spinning hard drives in your new Macs. Like, how far down this do you think we want to go here? But yeah, I just think that was like were trying to make a good point, but it got mired down in a bad joke.
Yeah, especially because you don't really want to point out the fact that, because it seems like while those people are sad, you don't want to put the spotlight on what people are doing because you don't know why people are using an old computer. You don't know if people don't have the money to buy a new computer. You want to put the spotlight on, we believe we have a better product. That's a positive message, not, that kind of poking fun that's not really necessary. So I really didn't like that comment.
Yeah, it was just poorly delivered, if it should have been delivered at all. So there were no Macs. I think, we're going to buy WWDC, right? Like, there's got to be something. Do we think that they might do a little event or a quiet event or just an upgrade in between now and then? What do you think, Stephen?
I think so. I mean, unless they're having some sort of issue, it seems like Skylake chips are shipping en masse to other OEMs. I would think that, maybe in April you could do I don't even think you have to do an event. I think you can do that as a website press release, like embargo review type deal. And I think that'd be fine. I think June is a long way away, and with so much software going on in the summer, like they had the Mac Pro, I think was a notable hardware thing at WWDC, but they've moved a lot of that hardware elsewhere in the year because they've got OS X, they have iOS, they have tvOS, and they have watchOS to all contend with now on the WWDC stage. So I'm hoping, because I'm in the market, but I just think that June is a long way off. Hopefully they would be sooner than that.
Yeah, I agree. So the Apple Watch, they've dropped the price down to $299.
That's with the nylon bands, right? So is that, the sport band I think is still the old price, but...
Oh, really?
Yes, it's just the nylon.
I didn't catch that.
It's when it's matched with the nylon band, which is,
surprised to me that they're cheaper.
Well, if you buy them individually, they're the same, I think. So I don't know what the deal is there. Clearly they're trying to move them, I guess, and trying to maybe breathe some life into that, but I think it's great. I think $299 is a lot more... Like, mentally, that's a lot smaller number than $399. For some reason, But,
my hope here is that this is reminiscent of the original iPhone, and that $299 becomes a starting point for the next edition.
I think it's really hard to go back. I mean,
Yeah.
they did it with the iPad. I guess we'll talk about that. But I think once you drop, it's got to be real convincing why you would need to go back up again.
Yeah. Yeah. So $299, the new nylon bands. I'm struggling with the nylon bands.
Mm-hmm.
Image to image, place to place, they look good and not good to me. I need to see these in person. All of Apple's shots don't appeal to me. I think that so the shots that they show on the web pages, are they renders or are they real?
They look like renders. Like they look too sharp somehow to me.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
That's what I think. Or like they're shot in such a way that they're shot so perfectly they kind of cross into the uncanny valley.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like them. But The Verge had a hands-on, and the photos from the hands-on, I was like, they look quite nice. I want to go and see these in a store, and I will then maybe pick one up. There's definitely a couple of the new sport band colors I want to see. I like the yellow, I like the royal blue, and I like the red. I love that they're doing more leather colors. The leather one I don't really think is my thing, especially with the sport band. The lug mismatching ended up being something that turned me away from the Milanese in the end. After that long discussion on this show, I decided to not do that. But I like that they're doing all of that. I like the bands. I mean, it's just a fun little thing, and I'm interested to get my hands on some more of them. Building up a real collection. I'm basically as bad as you with your iMacs.
The band's way less.
Oh, really?
Way less.
Really? How much do those things run for?
The weight? Oh, wait, you mean like price-wise?
Price-wise. Yeah, I was talking about price, not weight.
I've only bought one out of the three that I have, and I think it was like $80, and then I paid like $30 for shipping. So like,
All right, so
$100, $115.
About 3 times the price of the bands. It doesn't take up as
And
much storage space.
And they weigh 41 pounds. So actually, the later ones weigh a little less. I'm just flipping through this. They shaved off 6 pounds at some point during the iMac G3's life. Way to go, guys!
Put them on the no carb diet.
Is that what it was?
I don't particularly care about the watch announcements. It's kind of cool that there's more colors and that the sport watch is cheaper. But I don't really like the nylon bands. They look kind of ugly to me. Maybe, not my style. But I do find it interesting that Apple is now kind of officializing what Craig Hockenberry of the Icon Factory calls the reverse crown way of wearing an Apple Watch. So if you go see the Apple product shots on the store and on the watch website, you can now see that Apple has some Apple Watch renders with a crown on the bottom left. So usually the digital crown is in the top right. In some shots, it's in the bottom left. And again, this is because, there's a setting that you can enable to rotate the interface of the watch if you want to wear the Apple Watch, with the crown at the bottom. It wasn't really official before. I mean, there was a setting, but Apple was not making a big deal out of it. And now they do have, renders and, fancy product shots with a bunch of Apple Watches, some with the digital crown in the top right, some with the crown in the bottom left. So, if you're one of those people, know that now Apple officially forgives you and accepts you as an Apple Watch user.
I think you guys should try it.
You wear the Apple Watch this way?
Try it.
I did when it came out. I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of weird to use the crown at the bottom.
Crowns go on the right-hand side of a watch face for me. Like, that's where they go. That's where I'm used to them being.
Yeah, I don't wear a watch, but, maybe just when I was a kid and I used to wear watches, I remember, the crowns and the buttons were on the right side. Maybe.
Also, for me now, like, I've got the muscle memory.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't worn my Apple Watch in like 10 days, lately. Didn't really miss it, but I started wearing it again yesterday because of the WatchOS update. It doesn't really excite me, everything is so slow. I mean, I do miss the time. I do miss the looking at but it's the fact that the apps that I use the most don't have Apple Watch versions. And so it's difficult for me to be excited because the stuff that I needed to do, it can't do. And so I'm like, should it, sometimes I forget. And lately I forgot for like a week. It was just there sitting on the nightstand. And I was like, oh, yes, I gotta remember to wear my watch. We'll see. I guess I want new hardware or new software. I don't know, but it doesn't do what I need it to do. So, kind of sad.
I feel like I'm the only one here who really likes their Apple Watch. Like, sometimes in the morning, if I haven't put it on, I'm like, oh, I need to go put it on. Like, I'm not getting my notifications. Like, I feel kind of like it's just part of my whole little setup that I got going on here.
Mm-hmm.
It really works for me.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, like, I set my devices up in a very specific way. So much so that they're always on Do Not Disturb because of the fact that I have an Apple Watch. So, when I don't have an Apple Watch on, things can start to get a bit like I just don't get any notifications of any kind. It's like I kind of built it that way. I built the Apple Watch as an important part. It's like my notifications triage hub or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's the only way I know that anything's happening. So.
I think one of the reasons why I'm having this sort of change, it's because of this is a bit of an off topic, so sorry. But it's because in the past few months, I've been trying to change the way I deal with, with work when I'm out. When I'm not at home getting work done, I'm usually like shopping with my girlfriend, and I'm trying to focus on, I want to get work out of my head. So what I did is I turned notifications off. So I don't want to see notifications because I know that, yes, maybe something is important. But I don't want to be bothered because I want to try to enjoy, what I'm doing when I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So not having notifications, when I go out now, I usually set my phone to Do Not Disturb or set to mute because I don't want to look at it. I don't want to have the temptation, I'm sort of forcing myself to not be distracted. And I know that it sounds awful because, sure, I'm spending time with my girlfriend. I'm not working. I should be able to do it on my own. But it's that sort of habit, that it's hard to kick. So I've been trying to sort of isolate myself when I'm not working. And so not having notifications come constantly, but knowing that, there's someone on my team taking care of the news or taking care of something when I'm not working, it helps me enjoy, life more. And so not having the constant nagging on the watch, it's been kind of relaxing in a way. I don't know.
This is one of the bigger problems with the way that the tools that we use to get our work done, because we have an issue. I mean, we could go deep here, but the tools that we use as people that kind of have independent businesses on the internet are the same tools that we also use to talk to our friends. So it's like, if you want to talk to people, then you have to have the notifications on, and then the notifications also for work. Like, that's where it starts, the line starts to get a little blurred there, because you can't just switch off a specific thing and still get Slack messages from me, because then they could also be Slack messages from your developer. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's an issue, but maybe that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. Talk about the iPhone SE. This week's episode is also brought to you by Igloo, the intranet you'll actually like. With Igloo, you don't have to be stuck to your desk to do your work, because Igloo is built to be mobile. They have created an intranet platform that can be accessed from wherever you choose to do your work. So if you do want to do your work at the beach, you can take your iPad and you can do that. If you want to do your work in your office, you can do it on your iMac. If you want to do it on the train, you can do it on your phone. People are mobile these days. Your work should be too. And because we're mobile, we're used to using apps and services that are with us everywhere. Igloo is. But also, people use services like Box, Google Drive, and Dropbox to keep their documents with them wherever they want to be. Igloo understands this, so they integrate these services into their platform. This also stopped people from taking documents outside of the company walls, as it were. If you know terms like 256-bit encryption, single sign-on, and Active Directory integrations, then you'll know just how safe and secure Igloo is and how it can play a part in your company's already great security. You can also share files with your coworkers and track them with read receipts. This can be super useful for making sure that critical information has been seen, keeping everyone on the same page. Igloo is really customizable. You can theme it and skin it to look exactly the way that you want and put your company logo and stuff in it so it feels like a place that your team is used to working in. And you can also very easily enable just the functionality that each team within your company needs. If they don't need document collaboration, then they don't have to have it. It's as simple as that. It's time to break away from an intranet that you hate. Go and sign up for Igloo right now, and you can try it for free with any team of up to 10 people for as long as you want. It's no risk. You can just go and try it out. It's absolutely free for any team of up to 10. Go sign up today at igloosoftware.com/connected. Thank you so much to Igloo for their continued support of this show and Relay FM. iPhone SE. It is the new 4-inch iPhone as we expected, but maybe what we didn't expect is it is, except for a different chamfer, which is now a matte material, basically, it looks exactly the same as the 5S.
Yeah.
And the rumors didn't really say that was going to be the case, right? We were always thinking curved glass. There was some rumors that were like, looks like a small iPhone 6. Nope. Looks completely like the 5S.
Rumors were a bit confused.
Seems like it. Yeah, which is rare, I think, these days.
Everything else, is basically on point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a smaller iPhone. It's got almost everything from the 6S except 3D Touch. And it's not called the 5SE, it's just called the SE, which, according to Schiller, stands for Special Edition. So there you go. No mystery. But it's got Apple Pay, It's got a 12-megapixel camera. Is that right?
Yep. And I think it's got the 5-megapixel front, right, as well?
Yeah. So it's the 6S chipset and the camera, but no 3D Touch display, which is interesting to me. What do you guys think 3D Touch is a no-go here?
They didn't want to build the sensors for the 4-inch because they don't have them.
Yeah. Yeah, my guess is that was a road too far in the re-engineering of that chassis.
Probably.
I mean, what do you guys think about the design being the 5S design? I mean, like you said, unless you're one of us, you're never going to notice the difference. It already looks old, right? And what happens when the iPhone 7 comes out and is assumedly different than the 6S? Is this going to look even older, or have they crossed some sort of threshold into like this being sort of a more timeless design that may hold up better than say the iPhone 3G did?
So here's my story. Basically, if you've been listening to this show, that I've been talking for weeks about Adina wanting this, right? She wanted a new phone. She wanted it to be small. She's not too keen on the 6. I told her all the specifications over iMessage. I was like, it's going to be just like the 6S, but inside of there, like, it's going to be fast. The battery's going to be much improved. It's going to have a better camera. You're going to get live photos. She's like, great. She looked at it. She was like, I'm not sure.
No, come on. No, Adina has to buy one now.
The reason that she feels that way is she was hoping for something new, because she just looked at her phone and she's like, it's just the same. She's like, is it lighter at all? I was like, probably not. Yeah. She's like, I don't know. So she wants to go and see it now. So she may still go with this, but she now wants to go to a store. Like, we were thinking we were just going to get this sight unseen, like we were just going to buy it. But she wants to now go to a store and look at it and play with it, and then maybe also play with a 6S again and see what her final decision will be. And I get that, because it is that, like, I don't want something that looks old feeling.
Yeah, the power of new, it has to look new.
Sure.
Makes sense.
So for me, the story is very similar except the ending. My wife has a 6S that we got at Christmas, and she wants to go back. In fact, I'll be ordering an iPhone SE this week for her. And so I had the same deal. I just told her, like, hey, it is basically the phone you have now minus 3D Touch, which she doesn't use, in that smaller form factor. And it's exactly like the 5S you had. And not only was she pleased about that, the first question was, hey, do we still have my old iPhone case? And that really sort of like, it's easy for us as like enthusiasts to not really understand all of the things that go into these sorts of decisions for people. But for her, it was like, oh, great, I even have a case for it that'll already work, right? Like, let's do it. And I think the case compatibility thing is maybe a big deal. And they're talking about people who may be upgrading from an older phone that they could just continue to use their 5S accessories. And then they're talking about this phone being really popular for people who are new to the platform. And what was the number? 30 million 4-inch phones sold last year. That's 30 million old phones sold
crazy,
last year.
Right? Like, you can see why they're making this device.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a fraction of 230 million iPhones, I think, sold in total, but it's a large number still.
But think about it. If they made the argument that the 4-inch phone is popular with people coming to the platform for the first time, do you want your newest users to be on something that's 2 to 3 years old, tech-wise?
No.
You don't.
Makes sense.
You want them to have the good camera and the speed, and Apple Pay being a huge addition to this phone. Like, I totally understand why they're making it. And while it's not for me, it is for some people in my life, and I think it'll be popular. I've got some questions about the longevity of the design, but I think that'll pan out in time. Or it may be that only we care about that, and maybe Adina is like kind of in the middle, but a lot of people, my wife included, like, she saw it as a benefit that it was, basically the same as her 5S. And, she's picking a different color. She hasn't had silver before. She wants to go silver this time. But other than that, like, I don't think people are going to care as much as maybe we care.
The way we left it was that she said, maybe I'll get a different color, and then that will, like, the trick that we use, right, to make it feel new. She might go with that. Like, basically, it's just because it looks like the one that she's got, she now wants to go and feel it and play around with it. And I would be surprised if she ended up going with a 6S, but it was just interesting to me that, like, it was such a sure deal, and then it's like, but now I feel like I have the same phone.
The problem here, Mike, is that you overhyped your own girlfriend because you've been an unreliable source of rumors.
I am. If she was here right now, she would tell you that the overhyping is real.
It's not your fault, Mike.
Just in general daily life, I overhype constantly. So this is good. I mean, what, $399 for 16 gigabyte? Okay, I want to ask you two. Jason asked me this question. So Federico, 16 gigabyte in the iPhone SE for $399. Is that a problem? 16 gig?
Well,
or does it bother you?
It bothers me.
Okay.
Right? It bothers me because 16 gigabytes is just ridiculous. I mean, I get it. It's cheaper. It's under $400. It's under, the threshold of 500, which is good news. I think it's a better attempt at a cheaper phone than the iPhone 5C. It looks more classy. It's got the latest tech. But the 16 gigabytes just bother me at a conceptual level, because it's not a real. I'm just going on the record. I don't call it a real iOS experience. When you use when you're selling people a 16 gigabyte phone, the problem isn't people buying these. The problem is Apple selling 16 gigabyte iPhones. You're giving them an inferior experience just because they cannot enjoy the benefits of having more storage. More video, more games, more apps. And I say this because I see my friends, they're on a budget, but they still want to use an iPhone. And the base iPhone, which is the iPhone that they can afford, which is the iPhone that Apple sells, has 16 gigabytes. And they're constantly battling with the deleting apps, deleting games, deleting videos. That's not a good experience. That's just ridiculous. And I feel like the problem isn't people, because from our position, where, tech people, we have the money set aside for buying these gadgets, and we're always, too often, too quick to judge and say, well, those people, they are, shame on them. They're dumb because they're buying the 16 gigabytes, iPhones. But that's not the problem. The problem is at the beginning, at the source, which is Apple making these phones. Let me tell you, I don't buy the argument that Apple knows, that Apple, they look at the data, they look at the customer feedback. I don't buy that anymore. 16 gigabytes really bothers me because it's no way to enjoy an iPhone, and it's no way to sell an iPhone. So it's good news that it's cheaper, but I don't accept the 16 base model anymore.
Steven?
I mean, we're going to be buying the 64 gig, but I tend to agree with Federico, but with the caveat that I think I look at the way some people I know use their phones, and it maybe isn't a big deal. But I think that overall, they should move forward from this, and maybe to hit that price point, they're doing it, whatever. But I will be extremely disappointed if the next flagship phone still carries that 16 gig badge on the back.
In this phone, the SE, it doesn't bother me as much. Just in this phone, because it's about budget, it's the low end of the market.
Yeah, with a 12 megapixel camera that takes
so
HD photos.
4K video.
Look, I know it's ridiculous, right? Like, I know all of that stuff is ridiculous. I wish that it was more, but like, it doesn't upset me to the level that you guys are upset. Like, it doesn't upset me if they try and do this again in the iPhone 7. Like, if we're coming to the iPhone 7 with 16 gigabyte base, like, it's just ridiculous. Just in this one phone, I'm just a little less annoyed about it personally, than I think you guys and then other people. Like, it just doesn't really bother me so much, considering it's $100 more for 64. So like, it's not a massive jump to get a really good storage.
Yeah.
And I think if it helps keep it under that $400, then I think that's good, because I think it should be there, and whatever. The other iPhone related thing, I guess, is iOS 9.3 is now out. I guess there's nothing really new to say that I suppose we haven't already spoken about on the show about 9.3.
Mm-hmm. Probably. Yeah, we've talked about Notes, Night Shift, the iPads and education. I think we covered the main points. There's a bunch of tweaks, especially with Apple Music, with a few system apps. There's some changes, some more 3D touch, quick actions, I guess, is good news. But yeah, I think we covered the main points.
And, it's a pretty stable release. I'm pretty happy with it on all my devices. I think it's good. I'm happy that it's out and everything's running well on it, I think.
Yeah, now one of the things that Apple doesn't say, that I heard from a few friends, is that they try to increase performance in some areas of the OS, especially Control Center, to bring it back to 60 frames per second, on every device, which is nice. It's a good release. Again, surprisingly feature-rich, given that it's, just a couple of months away from WWDC.
Mm-hmm.
We already had 9.1, 9.2, and we were not expecting 9.3, which is usually when Apple, likes to wrap things up and to say, time to pack it up and go to the next OS. They usually do bug fixes and a few maintenance type of things. Instead, we got brand new features here. So it was interesting, but we covered it, and it's good release. Especially if you're on an older device, I recommend to upgrade, because things are supposedly faster on the older side of things.
All right, today's episode is also brought to you by Squarespace, the simplest way for anyone to create a beautiful landing page, website, or online store. Start building your website today at squarespace.com and use the offer code WORLD at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase. With easy-to-use tools and templates, Squarespace helps you capture every detail of what drives you, because if it's worth the effort, it's worth sharing with the world. And you can share it with the world with beautiful templates. I mentioned that the tools and the templates are easy to use. They're also fantastic looking. They have really great professionally designed templates. They all feature responsive design as well, so your site is not only going to look great, it's going to look great on all sizes of device too. Squarespace has state-of-the-art technology that they use to power your site, and every site on their platform, they ensure security and stability. You'll be able to make your website look and feel how you want, no matter what your skill level is. No coding experience is required to build Squarespace websites. All of their tools are drag and drop. They're really easy to deal with, and they're all WYSIWYG as well. So every change that you make, you get to see take effect immediately on your site. It really is fantastic. They have 24/7 support with live chat and email, so if you have any issues or problems, they're there to help you no matter what. They have their dev platform, so if you do understand how to work with the code, you can get in under the hood and tinker with your Squarespace site to your heart's content. If you sign up for a year, you'll get a free domain name too, and Squarespace plans start at just $8 a month. You can sign up for a free trial with no credit card required and start building your own website today over at squarespace.com. And when you decide to sign up, make sure that you use the offer code WORLD, WORLD, at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for Connected. I'd like to thank Squarespace for their continued support of this show and Relay FM.
So, following in the steps of products that we mostly knew were coming, a new 9.7-inch iPad Pro was announced, and it is more or less the 12.9-inch tablet that the three of us enjoy. It does the smart connector for the keyboard, pencil support, the new 4-speaker system, and it comes with the A9X. It does come with 2 gigs of RAM, which is a step down, but it is obviously a lot fewer pixels to push, so maybe that kind of comes out in the wash. And it's it's a step up from the Air 2. So basically this thing starts at $599. The Air 2 is still around, now at $399. So for the first time, $499 price point is empty, which is interesting. And it's I think Apple's pitching it as an upgrade from the Air 2, but also, hey, you want all of the stuff that the iPad Pro has, but you want it in a smaller form factor. That we have that now. In many ways, it's treating the iPad line, in my opinion, more like the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro, where you have a couple different machines that are more or less identical, but you're going and choosing by size. I think there's a little bit of a question as to what's going on with the iPad Air line. Is the iPad Air 2, which did not get an update, still for sale as it's been for a long time? Is that going to just kind of fade away and the Pro can maybe come down in price? I think that's kind of to be determined, but a new price point, new product, and bringing a lot of that stuff that we've enjoyed on our bigger iPads down to the more popular 10-inch size. What do you guys think?
I have a problem with the True Tone display thing.
Okay.
So this is an idea of, I don't know what, like better color reproduction, right, in certain areas, and the display tech itself is got a higher color gamut.
Yeah, so it's a couple of things. So the iOS devices and laptops and everything have had ambient light sensors for years, and they're using that now to detect the color temperature in the room. And if the color temperature is warmer, it will match the color temperature of the display. So it's kind of riding on the back of what Night Shift is doing a little bit, of say, hey, we want to go warmer or cooler to match the room. And Apple pitched it as, if you have a sheet of paper, the sheet of paper matches the room. But if you're in a dark room that's sort of, I think they use the example of like sitting next to a fire, you don't want your iPad to be blasting bright blue light in your eyes. You want it to be warm and toned down to feel more in tune with the room, or whatever language they used. So it's I think it's more about like hijacking Night Shift in a way than necessarily the larger color gamut. I think the hardware difference is the sensors, not necessarily something built into that gamut. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think they've put more sensors in it to make the ambient stuff better.
Yes, it's the only device with that particular ambient light sensors, is how I understand it.
When you couple this with the difference in the camera, I put a screenshot in the show notes. I was looking in the Apple Store app today, and I opened the iPad Pro page, and they have like a kind of a breakdown of the features of the two devices, and it's so confusing. So you have two devices in the same line. Mm-hmm. One of them's bigger than the other one, but the smaller one has got a camera of higher megapixels, and it's got a better FaceTime, and it's got the Retina flash. And it's talking about True Tone display on the resolution. I think it's just confusing, and I'm not sure why they decided to put these features in the small one and not the big one. Like I'm confused about it, and it feels weird to me to be introducing a new product in this line, and then immediately splitting the line on features.
I don't agree with it, but I think I can explain their reasoning, maybe. Right. I think the perspective they're coming from is the new 9.7-inch iPad is a smaller iPad. People carry this type of iPad around more than they do with the bigger iPad Pro. So because it's more portable, because people use it more, in sort of mobile scenarios, they walk around, they take pictures. It's a more mobile iPad, so we gotta put the better camera in it, and we can have this display technology that adapts to different rooms, to different, scenarios, because people move around with this type of iPad more. So people change contexts with this type of 10-inch iPad more than they do with the 13-inch type of iPad. I think that's their angle. And they also kind of say this on the website. They say, and because people love to, carry their 9.7-inch iPad around, we had a display technology to, for better color, whatever. I think that's their angle. Because it's a smaller iPad, people use it more, in mobile situations. So we do the better camera and we do the better display. I think that's what they want to say, at least.
Yeah, I can totally understand that logic. That is the logic that led to the decisions. Like, I can see that I think you are spot on. It's just weird to me when you look at the pages.
Yeah,
like if you
weird.
think about when the iPad Mini was introduced, it was like same specs. You just pick the screen size.
Yes,
Right.
I think that would have made a lot more sense here, considering they did things for the iPad Pro 9.7 which are a bit weird, like shrinking the keyboard down. Like, so the software keyboard is not as good, but then the smart keyboard, right? They made a smaller one of those, even though it maybe doesn't make as much sense on this device as it does on the bigger one. So, like, you're trying to make them the same and then splitting them at the last minute anyway. It's like they went on like just a sharp right turn for features that are, I don't know how important. So maybe the camera, I can kind of say fine, like whatever. But I don't know if they needed to do this True Tone thing now. Like, they didn't have to do it. No one asked for it. It's great that it's there, but like, you could have just had this as a feature for the next revision of the iPad Pro line in a year or two down the line. It's just strange to me, and I think it adds complexity, because now it's like you're not just choosing screen size, which I think should be the only choice here. You're also choosing other features.
Like RAM.
Yeah. I mean, but that's hidden though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get what both of you are saying, but there is a little sense in me that Federico's discussion is a little bit of a backronym, that they sort of worked the way to that, and it may be as simple as the technology wasn't ready. They wanted it, but it wasn't ready. Or if this does leverage things in night mode, that the software wasn't ready, and that I can buy just as easily as I can buy what Federico said. I think there's a lot of factors that go into this. But I mean, this is not the first time that Apple's done this sort of thing, right? Where they sort of split something, sooner than you would like, or there's an awkward period. I think my favorite example is that they revved like the iMac G5 and put an iSight camera in it, and then released the Intel iMac like 90 days later. Like, a very short period of time, you could buy an iMac G5 with an iSight, and if you did, you were kind of screwed because the Intel one was much better. I mean, Apple does this, and I think that it's easy to ascribe to them adjectives like being thoughtful and like seeing down the road. I think sometimes they don't, and sometimes they just say, "Hey, this isn't ready now. It's ready. Okay, now it is. Let's put it in." But I agree with you guys. It definitely doesn't feel good as like an iPad Pro owner. But at the same time, I'm really glad my iPad doesn't have a camera bump. So I guess that's a trade-off I'm willing to accept.
Okay, let me ask you guys this. This is a bigger question, but I want to ask you both. So, is it maybe the time to accept that the age of the simple product line is over? That Apple is such a big company selling devices to so many diverse people and countries and, different types of market segments, that it's just not feasible anymore to imagine Apple with 2 computers, 2 phones, and 2 tablets?
I think it's inevitable that a company of their size would have the amount of products that they have. Like, it gets confusing, and I think one of the reasons it gets confusing is because Apple's really bad at naming in a large product line. Like they try and keep it clean, but in keeping it clean, make it difficult. Like in their own video about the iPad Pro, they call this iPad Pro multiple names.
Yeah.
Right. You know, right? Like it doesn't have a set name that they give it. One moment it's the new iPad Pro, and then it's the iPad Pro 9.7. Like they don't give them the clear names because they have like such a limited set of names that they're willing to draw from. So I think that doesn't help them, and I think it makes the problem seem worse than it is. Like earlier in the show, we were talking about 1 billion devices.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just have everybody choose from two things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Like it's obviously not 1 billion people. It's, let's say, 500 million people. Let's just say. I mean, it's not that. It's much bigger. It's probably like three quarters. But I want the iPad Pro. I don't want the iPad Air. I don't want the 9.7 iPad Pro. I want the one that I have, and I'm happy that they make it. So I'm happy that they split the line into more products now. Mm-hmm. I just think that they have a ways to go to still to make it clearer from a branding and naming perspective, and to make it clearer on features. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, again, like the hard disk drives in the iMacs. Like that is a level of complexity in that product decision that shouldn't be there. Like you shouldn't even make that a question in people's mind. Like if they want to downgrade their Mac and put a hard drive in it to save money, great. But like when you put them in your store window, you don't put hard drives as one of the configuration options. It just makes no sense. Like I think that they have so much stuff that they have to do, like they lose it in some areas. I think this is one of those. Again, like you've had this product out for a few months. There's now another one, but you put them side by side, you list their features, and like it looks like it makes the buying decision more confusing.
So what you're saying is part of that is a name problem, just because the names are kind of weird.
Yep.
And the other part is there are some features that are maybe too old for them to be a valid choice at this point. And you're just making people confused.
Yeah, I actually think part of it is, this is kind of sounds weird, so bear with me for a moment, is them having a little bit too much pride in their product innovation. Like, they put the True Tone display out now because it's ready and they like it and they think it's great, when they could have waited. But they want to have it out because it's awesome. Yeah. But you could have just waited and it would have been fine.
Would you regret shipping the True Tone display now or not shipping it? Because to me, it seems more like it's more of a problem for you or for me, because we don't have the True Tone display on the iPad Pro that we like, than it is for people who do want the small iPad Pro.
So much of this about the True Tone display is laced in the fact that I'm throwing my toys out of the pram because everybody's getting something that I don't have.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where it's like, I just bought this. Like, I just bought it. Like, it wasn't a year ago, but it was, what, like 3 months ago?
November, yeah.
Okay, so maybe a little bit longer, but...
5.
5. All right, okay, we're getting it. We're getting to the 6-month area, which maybe means it's not so bad.
Work?
But, you know, it's just like, I just wonder. Like, and my main thing about it now is just, it was looking at that screenshot today. I mean, it's actually laid out pretty badly on the page anyway.
It is, yeah.
But, like, you look at it, it's like, oh, one of these is a whole line longer. There's different numbers all over the place.
There must be some differences.
Yeah, like, I looked at it and I was like, what? What's happening? And
I did the same yesterday.
It's like, you just tighten it up. Just keep it tight.
I mean, they've always had that issue, and I think it's sort of inherent to the subject matter when the differences are technical. How do you like explain that? And even when they do, it's like True Tone display. It's like, well, what does that actually mean I haven't already read the product page?
I think their problem is they are a systemically small product line company with a big product line.
Yeah. I think part of Apple still thinks they have that 4-product grid in place.
Yeah,
they don't.
Yeah. I was just about to say that some people, either within Apple or outside Apple, still have some sort of fascination with the Steve Jobs grid of 4 products. Yeah. But it's not that way anymore, clearly. And maybe the other part of the problem is that sometimes the names are just too fancy. I mean, I know it sounds dumb, but call it the small iPad Pro and the big iPad Pro so
Man,
people can understand.
iPad Pro and iPad Pro Mini, it's a mouthful, but that really would have told you what they were.
True tone display. I mean, just call it, better color display.
Yeah.
I know that they sound kind of dumb, but people want to look at a table and know what it means. I'm looking true tone display. Okay, what does it mean true tone? I'm say tone. What's a tone? Are we talking about music? That kind of stuff. People don't understand, and maybe sometimes, they do fail to an extent at presentation. You're showing two lists side by side. There's no easy way to see what's different. Sometimes they do have an over complex naming matrix. So they have these fancy names, and what do they even mean? And maybe the other part of the problem is with us, that many of us in the tech scene, we do like pretty tables. We do like neat lists. We do like to have it simple. It's either computer A, computer B, phone 1, phone 2, we're done. But these companies, it's not just Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they do sell across the globe, and people are different. People, the world is not the valley. The world is vast and large, and different people need different things, and it's almost absurd that we have to say this, but Apple's product line is not made for Silicon Valley. I think that's safe to say. And so it kind of makes sense, to have... There's a tweet going around, it's kind of viral, of someone saying, when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he needed to simplify the product line. The big difference is, Apple now sells to billions of people, and when Steve Jobs came back, they were almost bankrupt. So that's just a tiny difference.
I think that referring it to that now is a bit weird. I don't.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
But Apple do it themselves, though, right? Was it WWDC last year when they showed that thing of all the products on the side, and they're like, "This is all we sell. It's one slide."
Kind of.
Except there's 19 iPads back there.
You've just laid 19 up, and we can only see one, right? If you shifted
Right.
one, you'd start to see them all like dominoes in the distance. But this is what I mean. They are the small product line company with a big product line. They just can't seem to break that. We've gone on such a huge diversion.
No, I would say there's one last thing to sort of, one and a half little things left to consider is
Two things.
Two things. One, when Apple has introduced new hardware features to iOS devices, they generally do it one at a time. So even today, 3D Touch and Touch ID is still only on one phone. When they added, that's the only example I can think of. But there are other examples, right? They move sort of slowly in this area, and maybe that's a yield thing. Maybe it's that they want to make sure it sticks. Who knows? But secondly, again, like what I talked about when we opened the segment, they have moved into treating the iPad like a notebook or like a computer, like the Mac. And there's a 21.5 inch and a 27-inch iMac, and there's a whole bunch of range in there, and you can customize it to a degree, but there's one device and two classes. And I think really that they are just trying to treat the iPad differently. They treated it like the iPhone for so long, and clearly that doesn't work. And now we have the iPad Air 2, which is, when did the Air 2 come out? 2014? I guess it's a year and a half old now, and they haven't updated it, but that's fine because it's still a really capable tablet. And maybe they are slowing it down and are treating it differently because their current path hasn't worked. And if this is, it's confusing now, but I think ultimately, maybe we're coming at this from the iPhone perspective, and we should be coming at it from the Mac and saying, hey, you want a MacBook Air or what size? And you know what? Even between the 11 and 13-inch Air, there are differences. And this feels weird right now because it's still kind of new to the iPad line, but my guess is that in a couple of years that this will feel kind of like how the iPad's always been. But we are in this transition of not necessarily products even, but a transition of language around the iPad, and Apple hasn't figured all that out yet. Like you said, they call it different things at different points. But I think they'll get there. And I think that ultimately, whether this works or not, I don't know, but I think ultimately it will sort of congeal into something that makes more sense for more people.
All right, so the camera has a bump. Has
It
a
does.
protruding
Yeah.
lens. Matthew Panzarino took some photos and a little video to try and indicate the fact that when laid out on a desk, the bump doesn't seem to make the iPad wobble.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a quick sidebar. There doesn't seem to be an embargo on these
Nope.
products, which is really weird.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I assume it's just because they're kind of isn't like these aren't like massive products.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just do whatever.
So just like whatever, take pictures, just go crazy. Maybe Apple are testing this approach with these products. Like what happens if you just say like 3, 2, 1, go, and the first one to write the review is the winner. I don't know what you win, but you win something. I'm surprised that we haven't already seen a review today from a big site. Seriously, like that's a surprise to me that there hasn't been one yet. Maybe it's like an arms race. The pencil, the new smaller keyboard. There's a bunch of cases, smart cases and smart covers for the 9.7-inch iPad Pro that are in a load of lovely colors. The 12.9 still gray and white.
Yeah.
I don't know
Makes
what's
me
going
sad.
on there. Yeah, it makes me very sad.
Yeah, because the big one is for work, and work
Serious
is all
stuff.
it's all grey and serious.
It's
yeah.
the fun professional iPad and the serious professional iPad.
Yes. It's,
No new layouts for the keyboard yet. Federico, did Apple tell you this, or was it the software keyboard they said would have international layout?
the smart keyboard would have international layouts, but it doesn't seem to be the case yet.
That has not happened, has it?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's talk about this USB camera adapter. Phil Schiller called out on stage that you could power a mic
Oh,
from this
yes.
new USB camera adapter.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to address this with you guys. There's still other stuff that we need.
Once
like-
again,
Yeah.
yes.
Like, okay, this is a significant step forward in being able to produce podcasts on an iPad. Because in theory, I could use the microphone equipment that I currently use that could go the same with
Mhm.
all of us on our iPads now, which we couldn't
Yeah.
do before because we have boxes that need to be powered.
It'd be great for voiceover stuff, right? If you're just recording something locally,
Yeah.
or singing or doing video work or something, it's great. But
Because now you can use basically any USB hub in theory. I mean, I
Right.
don't know how powerful this thing.
yeah, I'm gonna try it. I ordered one of these USB adapters. I'm gonna try it with my USB pre when it comes in. I think it may work, but we'll see.
But there is a big part, actually a bigger part, really, because there's still
Mhm.
USB microphones you could use before this thing, which is applications being able to be in place that you could have a conversation like this either via FaceTime or via Skype, and also record local audio and the call audio like you can do on a Mac. Like there needs to be multiple audio streams that can all be
Mhm.
recorded by applications. This doesn't exist in iOS. Jason is very hopeful that Phil Schiller calling out podcasting on stage means they're
Yeah.
maybe going to work on this. Like that was a specific thing to reference.
Yes.
Fingers crossed, because genuinely, I think people think I don't want this to happen because they think that I restrict you, Federico.
No,
from
that's
recording.
not the. It's never really been
Yeah.
the case,
And
and that's
it-
not the case anymore.
No,
Anyway,
my feeling was always like, with how it has been, I just don't want to have to go through that, because I know that you and Fraser record this way because Fraser
Fraser does.
does the 2-device setup. I just
Yeah.
don't like it because then I have to hear a lower quality version of you when we stream live. Everybody else will hear a low quality version of you, because what Fraser does and what people say that you can do, which you can, is record, like to use a Skype call over an iPhone
Yeah.
with a headset. Like that is perfectly doable, but I just don't think it is the setup that I want to use or
Yeah.
that I want you to use. And I know you don't either.
When I want to have my phone free, so if there's an emergency, people can call me. Even if I'm podcasting, if something serious happens, I want to be reachable
Mhm.
at any time. So don't want to use my phone.
No. So, fingers crossed, iOS 10 brings more audio APIs and more
Yep.
capabilities for audio, because I would really love to be able to take a trip
Oh
and
man,
just be able to record using my iPad. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it at home. I'm not going to do it at home. Like me, I'm not. I have this great Mac set up here. Everything works the way exactly that I want it to be. But if I'm recording on location or I'm away from this and I want to be able to record something, it'd be great to do a podcast just using my iPad and some equipment that I can put in a bag. That would be A++. And I would be totally happy, personally, with you doing it then after we've done some tests.
Okay. Fingers crossed.
But Federico, you bought the most exciting product announced in the event.
Well, I mean, I think it's safe to say this is the real deal from the event, which is the 29-watt USB-C adapter with a new USB-C to Lightning cable, which, as Apple lovely explains on the website, you can now use for fast charging on the bigger iPad Pro. So not on the new 9.7 inch, on the traditional 12.9 inch iPad Pro, you can rely on faster charging. You know, I already use the 12 watt adapter that Apple gives you with the iPad Pro, but even faster charging sounds even better to me. So I bought the set, so the adapter and the cable. It's shipping in 3 to 5 days. So, hopefully next week I will have my fancy charging setup, which is really exciting, Hopefully, the iPad Pro charges real slowly because it's got a big battery. Hopefully with this thing I can go, just a couple of hours for a full charge. We'll see.
All right, so the iPad Pro 9.7 starts at 32 gigabytes for $599, and then it goes to 128 for $749 and 256 gigabytes for $899. And Stephen, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the price difference here to the Air.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pitching it as a more serious, high-end product. And I mean, that makes sense, right? The Air 2 is not only older, which I don't think most people care about, but you look at this thing, a little bit more money, well, I guess $200 more. You get pencil and keyboard support, and you get
for
speakers.
Another $200.
Yeah, I mean, either they couldn't hit the $499 price point, which maybe they couldn't, or they wanted to make a statement that this is a different machine than what it replaced.
Oh no, I mean you get pencil and keyboard support when you lay out another $200.
Right. And so the question for me is, if they could have hit $499, would they have replaced the Air 2, or the Air 2 still have gone down in price? I think the Air still would have gone down in price because Apple seems to want an iPad at every conceivable price point right now. But is it going to replace the Air 2 eventually? Or are we going to have the iPad Mini and then the iPad Air and then 2 models of Pro? Like I said earlier, it's a transition. I just don't know where they're transitioning to yet. So yeah, I guess we'll just see over the course of time how this shakes out.
Bringing the Air 2 down to $399 is weird because they didn't move the Mini 4.
Oh, did they not? Is it the same price?
The Mini 4 is $399.
That is, and it's not as good as the Air 2, right? Or they're the same now?
They're pretty much the same, I think.
It's just smaller.
Then the iPad Mini 2 is now $269.
I can't believe they still sell that thing.
Well, it's the new iPad Air 2, right? Like it stays around for a while.
Oh, yeah, my gosh, yeah.
Are any of us going to buy the 9.7?
Nope.
All right,
Not for
Federico,
me.
why are you not getting it?
Because the benefits that it supposedly brings are not as essential to me as what the bigger iPad Pro does, which is 2 gigs of more RAM. And I know, it's got a bigger display. Maybe those 2 gigs are only useful for, the bigger display. But I like to future-proof my purchases, I like to know that I'm using the most powerful hardware around. I mean, if I were a Mac user, I'd totally buy the most powerful Mac I could, because I just want to have the most powerful tool I can afford for what I need to do. And also really I love iOS on the bigger display. I wouldn't be able to go back to, a smaller iOS that it's just, with split view, that it's not as comfortable to use. I do love the experience on the bigger iPad Pro. And then it's just what the 9.7 inch iPad Pro brings, the True Tone display and the better camera. I just don't care. Night shift is enough for me to balance the white colors of the UI. I don't take pictures with the iPad Pro, so I don't really care about the camera. And for those reasons, I'm gonna stick with the bigger iPad Pro because it's more powerful, it's more comfortable. Yeah, and it's actually more comfortable because it's bigger. because the iOS experience is bigger. The apps are bigger. The split view is easier to use. So I'm gonna stick with that.
I am appealed by the portability of the 9.7, like just it being able to be easier to put like in places and carry around, and it'd be lighter and stuff. But like the idea of being able to hold my iPad in one hand really, really easily, like I can and I do hold my Pro in one hand, but like being able to just, I don't know, put my hand around the whole thing and write on it and walk around, like it just be more secure would be nice. But I remember the reason I love iPad in general is because of the screen size of the iPad Pro, the 12.9. I have an Air 2, it's sitting right here, and I started to come around to that with split view. I was like, oh, this is nice. But what tipped me over the edge was the 12.9 inch screen. Like that was the last kind of bastion to fall for me to really show the usefulness of what these devices can be. And this was underscored for me this morning. I was sitting downstairs on my sofa and I was working, and I was flicking between applications as I do now, going from one thing to the other and splitting them in half and, typing in one, copying and pasting the other. I'm like, I'm not going back from this screen size. 2 full-size apps side by side, pretty much. Like, you have to pry that away from my cold dead hands now. Like, I love the way that works, and this 12.9 screen size, I can't see me moving away from that for quite some time. But Stephen, I know that you're maybe not as deep into this, and you've always liked that 9.7 size. You're not even tempted?
No, I mean, for the reasons that you two both laid out so well, but also the software keyboard is, finally I can type on an iOS device comfortably, and that's a big deal for me. Like, I not knowing how this new smart keyboard is, maybe that would change my mind a little bit, but I've gotten really good at the software keyboard if the thing is in landscape, and the size is really what unlocked kind of being able to do some work on the thing. And yes, there's, obviously pain points in the software still. Like this new Air won't have the problem of apps being upscaled like the Facebook app still, or like Google Drive was, or Google Docs was until very recently. But for me, like you, Mike, what's different about the 12.9 inch is what has made me use the iPad more. And so to give that up to something that I would like to be more portable, like I would love to have an iPad I could use in bed comfortably. And one of these days I'm going to rage buy an iPad mini to solve that problem. But until then, it is tempting for that sort of use. But when I think about what makes this iPad sticky for me in my workflow, it's all about the screen size.
I tell you about the keyboard, one thing I want to know is if the 9.7 Pro has a split keyboard.
It's a good question. It has the old iPad keyboard, like the one that the Air 2 has. So my guess is that it does, and that they did that as a size thing. But you ought to go ask Panzerino. I bet he could tell you.
I'm sure he could. All right. That wraps it up for this week's episode. If you want to find our show notes, head on over to relay.fm/connected/83. Thanks again to Memberful, Squarespace, and Igloo for supporting this week's episode. You can head on over to 512pixels.net for all of Stephen's work and lots of stuff about old computers and some stuff about new computers. You can head on over to macstories.net and you can find out things about apps.
And new computers.
And new computers. This is really like falling apart for me.
Touchscreen computers.
Touchscreens. Yeah, lots of touchscreen stuff and some not touchscreen stuff. And you can go to michaelsright.com for like just some weird stuff, really. I don't really know what goes. I don't even know what goes there. I am at iMike on Twitter. IMYKE. Stephen is at ISMH. Federico is at Vitici, VITICCI. They will be back next week. I'm not here again. I'm sorry. I do love you all. I want you to know that. I will come back the week after, I promise. Until then, say goodbye, guys.
Arrivederci.
Adios.